title, The Awakening of Sipho was the type of kid everyone admired, or at least pretended to. Coming from a wealthy family, he always had the latest gadgets, sneakers, and clothes. His wardrobe was filled with designer labels, and today he was especially proud of his new outfit, Louis Vuitton from top to bottom. As he strode into school, heads turned, some envious, others in awe. At Hillside Academy, a prestigious private school where casual clothing was the norm, Sipho stood out, draped in luxury. The air buzzed with excitement as the principal, Mrs. Lawrence, walked in with a new student. The boy, lean and tall, wore traditional Maasai attire. Vibrant shukas draped around him, beads adorning his neck and arms. His sandals, simple and worn, carried a story of tradition Sipho couldn't understand. "This is Lamayan. He's new here," Mrs. Lawrence introduced him to the class. Sipho eyed Lamayan from his seat, a smirk creeping across his face. "Is this some kind of joke?" Sipho whispered loudly enough for others to hear, laughing. "I mean, who still dresses like that?" The class snickered under their breath, but Lamayan stood tall, his expression calm and composed. The teacher frowned, but before she could intervene, Sipho continued. "Do you even own real shoes? You're in the city now, not some bush in the middle of nowhere." Lamayan said nothing, his eyes unwavering, but the tension in the room was thick. Word of Sipho's mockery spread fast. By the end of the day, Mrs. Lawrence called Sipho into her office. His smug grin faded as she delivered the verdict. "Sipho, your actions today were cruel and disrespectful. Hillside doesn't tolerate bullying. You're expelled." Expelled? The word echoed in Sipho's mind. He had never faced real consequences before. The drive home felt like an eternity. When he arrived, his parents were waiting, their expressions unusually stern. His mother, normally soft-spoken, was the first to address him. "We heard what happened at school today." "Yeah, but it's just a misunderstanding, Mom. I mean, look at how he was dressed." Sipho shrugged, still not seeing the gravity of the situation. His father shook his head. "Sipho, what you did was not only wrong, but it was also ignorant. Do you even know where your own family comes from?" "What are you talking about?" Sipho asked, confused. His father took a deep breath. "We are Maasai, Sipho. Your grandparents and great-grandparents, they lived in the very villages you mocked today. We've lived in the city for a long time, but our roots are deep in Maasai culture. We have kept this from you, hoping you'd learn on your own. But now it's time you do." Sipho's eyes widened in disbelief. "What? You mean we're Maasai?" "Yes," his mother said. "And tomorrow, you're going to the village to live with your grandparents. You'll stay there until you learn what it means to respect your culture and others." The next morning, Sipho found himself on a bumpy road to his family's Maasai village, far from the bustling city he knew. His designer clothes seemed out of place here, surrounded by the vast plains and simple mud huts. His grandparents greeted him warmly, but everything felt foreign, uncomfortable. There was no Wi-Fi, no television, no luxuries. The first few days were miserable. Sipho struggled to adapt, his mind constantly wandering back to the comforts of the city. The food was different, the daily chores tiring. He missed his friends, his gadgets, his lifestyle. Worst of all, he felt like an outsider in a culture he didn't understand. But as days turned into weeks, something began to change. Sipho watched the villagers, how they lived in harmony with the land, their deep respect for nature and each other. His grandparents were patient with him, teaching him about Maasai customs, their values, and the importance of community. He learned to herd cattle, to make fire without matches, and even how to bead jewelry. Slowly, Sipho found himself shedding his old mindset. One day, while walking through the village, Sipho spotted a group of young Maasai boys, his age, laughing and playing. They waved him over, inviting him into their circle. Hesitant at first, Sipho joined them. They weren't concerned about his city background or how he looked. They just welcomed him as he was. For the first time, Sipho began to feel a sense of belonging that he never knew he needed. The simplicity of the village life, the richness of the Maasai culture, slowly began to fill the void his expensive clothes and gadgets never could. He felt more connected to himself, to his family, and to his heritage. Months later, when Sipho returned to the city, he was different. Not just in the way he dressed, but in the way he carried himself. Gone was the arrogance, replaced by humility and understanding. When he walked back into Hillside Academy, some of his old friends teased him for the traditional beads he wore around his wrist, but Sipho just smiled.